Jayo Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari.
Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari.
Jayo Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari.
Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari.
Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaridhari.
Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaridhari.
Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaridhari.
Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaridhari.
Yashodanandana Brajadana Ranjana.
Yashodanandana Vrajajana Ranjana.
Yashodanandana Brajadana Ranjana.
Yashodanandana Vrajajana Ranjana.
Yamuna Tiravanachari.
Yamuna Tiravanachari.
Yamuna Tiravanachari.
Yamuna Tiravanachari.
Jayo Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari.
Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari.
Jayo Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari.
Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari.
Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaridhari.
Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaridhari.
Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaridhari.
Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaridhari.
Yashodanandana Brajadana Ranjana.
Yashodanandana Vrajajana Ranjana.
Yashodanandana Brajadana Ranjana.
Yashodanandana Vrajajana Ranjana.
Yamuna Tiravanachari.
Yamuna Tiravanachari.
Yamuna Tiravanachari.
Yamuna Tiravanachari.
Jayo Radha Madhava Kunja Shishima, Divine Grace Bhakti Vedanta Swami Maharaj Shiva Prabhupada,
Jai.
Jai Vishnu Padmanabha Sattva Charya Sthara Sati Shri Divine Grace Shiva Bhakti Vedanta Saraswati Swami Maharaj Prabhupada,
Jai.
Ananda Kota Vaishnava,
Jai.
Sampala Vichaya Divine Grace Shiva Prabhupada,
Jai.
Namacharya Shiva Haridas Thakur,
Jai.
Jai Jagavosh Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Charan Shiva Vedanta Shiva Sri Gaura Bhakti
Jai.
Shri Shiva Krishna Gopinath Shama
Jai.
Vrindavan Dham ki,
Jai.
Mayapur Dham ki,
Jai.
Gangamayi ki,
Jai.
Gangamayi ki,
Jai.
Tulsi Devi ki,
Jai.
Bhakti Devi ki,
Jai.
Sankirtan Yoga ki,
Jai.
Shri Harinam Sankirtan ki,
Jai.
Granthala Srimad Bhagavatam ki,
Jai.
Samaveta Bhaktivinoda ki,
Jai.
O Premanandi,
Hari Bol.
Hare Sita Samavati,
Hare
Hare
Krishna.
Sita Samavati,
Hare Krishna.
Hare Sita Samavati,
Hare Krishna.
Hare Sita
Hare Krishna. Gauranga.
Bhagavad Gita lectures. Read a page from there. No, the lectures that we're reading from, usually before class every morning. Isn't that it right there? Right there. That.
This one?
Yeah. Before we have Bhagavatam class, I guess tradition is to read the page from here. Yes. Keep up the tradition. This is from page 53, from a lecture in New York on August 3rd, 1966. Now, who is well versed and who is a pandit? A very learned man from by academic education may not be a learned man according to the view of Bhagavad Gita. Bhagavad Gita says he is a learned man who can see everyone on the equal footing, equal level. Vidya Vinaya Sampane Kamane Gavihastani Sunichaya Sapaki Chapanta Sampradarshana. A pandit can see. Pandit means a learned man can see that here is a learned Brahmin. In India, according to Vedic civilization, a learned Brahmin is considered to be the topmost man in human society. So therefore, he is taking the example that here is a very learned Brahmin, Vidya Vinaya Sampane Brahmane. Not only he is a Brahmin, but he is very gentle. Vidya means, what is the result of Vidya? Education means one becomes gentleman. That is the result of Vidya. If one is not a gentleman, then his learning is not accepted according to Vedic literature. So Pandit means that one who is learned and gentle. So another Pandit sees Vidya Vinaya Sampane, a Brahmana, learned and gentle. Vidya Vinaya Sampane, Brahmane Gavi, and a cow, Vidya Vinaya Sampane Gavi Ha, and an elephant, and Swatpake, Chasuni, Cha. Swatpake means there is a class of men who eat dogs. They are counted amongst the lower class in India. Swapake Chasuni, Shuni means dog. So dog also, not taken very good animal in society, but a pandit, either a dog, either a cow, either an elephant, either I mean to say dog eater, or a learned Brahmin, he sees all of them on the same level. That is a pandit. Why he sees on the same level? Do you mean to say that a learned Brahmin, a high-class Brahmin, is just like as good as a dog? No, a learned Brahmin is not as good as a dog. But how then the Pandit sees on the equal footing? Oh, because he he does not see on the skin, but he sees on the spirit. Therefore he's Pandit. One who has learned this art to see any living being, only the spirit sees. That here is a living being, he is a spiritual spark, He is a spirit soul, but he has got a different covering, body only. All pretty simple and clear. Vijivanaya Sampane Bhavanina Vihasane Sunichaya Sapakicha Pandita Samigrasha. Prabhupada simply expanding on this verse. Pandit is one who sees equal vision. I always think of that verse in Ishupanishad, one who sees all living entities as spiritual sparks and calls in one with the Lord. Becomes a true knower of things, what then can be an illusion or an anxiety for him? So, Prabhupada said this is an actual Pandit, not somebody who's simply learned in academic education. He's not so much Pandit, especially if he's not a gentleman. If he's not a gentleman. Okay, so we'll go on to Srimad Bhagavatam. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
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 Reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 7, Chapter 1. Today's text is 55. Is it on? Yes? Deha, Indriya, Asu, Hinanam, Vaikuntapura, Vasinam, Deha Sambandha, Sambadham, Etat, Akyatum, Arasi, Dehendriya Suhinanam, Vaikuntapura Vasinam, Deha Sambandha Sambadham, Etat Akyatum Arhasi, Dehandriya Suhinanam, Vaikuntapura Vasinam, Deha Sambandha Sambadham, Etat Akyatum Arhasi, Dehendriya Suhinanam, Vaikuntapura Vasinam, Deha Sambandha Sambadham, Etat Akyatum Arhasi,
Dehendriya Suhinanam, Vaikuntapura Vasinam, Deha Sambandha Sambandham, Etat Akyatum Arhasi, Dehendriya Suhinanam, Vaikuntapura Vasinam, Deha Sambandha Sambandham, Etat Akyatum Arhasi, Dehendriya Suhinanam, Vaikuntapura Vasinam, Sambandha Sambadham, Etat Akyatum Arhasi,
Dehendriya Suhinanam,
Dehendriya Suhinanam,
Vaikuntapura Vasinam,
Dehendriya Asuhinanam Vaikuntha Puravasinam Deha Sambandha Samspaddham Gita Nakrutam Arhasi
Dehendriya Suhinanam Vaikuntha Puravasinam Deha Sambandha Sambandham Gita Akyatumarhasi
Dehendriya Suhinanam Vaikuntha Puravasinam Deha Sambandha Sambandham Etad Akyatum Arhasi
Deha of a material body, Indriya material senses, Asu life breath, Hinanam of those devoid, Vaikuntha Pura of Vaikuntha, Vasinam of the residents, Deha Sambandha in the material body, Sambandham bondage, Etat this, Akyatumahasi please describe. Translation. The bodies of the inhabitants of Vaikuntha are completely spiritual, having nothing to do with the material body's senses of life air. Therefore, kindly explain how associates of personality of Godhead will curse to descend in material bodies like ordinary persons. Repeat. The bodies of the inhabitants of Vaikuntha are completely spiritual, having nothing to do with the material body. Senses or life air. Therefore, kindly explain how associates of the personality of Godhead were cursed to descend in material bodies like ordinary persons. Purport. This very significant question would be difficult for an ordinary person to answer, but Narada Muni, being an authority, could answer it. Therefore Maharaj Yudhishthira inquired from him, saying, Etad Akyatum Arhasi, only you can explain the reason. From authoritative sources it can be discerned that associates of Lord Vishnu who descend from Vaikuntha do not actually fall. They come with the purpose of fulfilling the desire of the Lord. The Lord comes to this material world through the agency of his internal potency, and similarly, when a devotee or associate of the Lord descends to this material world, he does so through the action of the spiritual energy. Any pastime conducted by the Supreme Personality of Godhead is an arrangement by Yogamaya, not Mahamaya. Therefore, it is to be understood that when Jai and Vijay descended to this material world, they came because there was something to be done for the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Otherwise, it is a fact that no one falls from Vaikuntha. Of course, a living entity who desires Sayuja Mukti remains in Krishna's Brahmana effulgence, which is dependent on Krishna's body, Brahmanohi Pratishtaham. Such an impersonalist who takes shelter of the Brahmana effulgence must surely fall down. This is stated in the Shastra, Yenye Ravandaksha Vamukta Marinas Tvayasta Bhavada Vashuddha Buddhiya Aruya Krichchena Param Padam Tata Padantya Dolyajata Yusmadam Vaya. O Lord, the intelligence of those who think themselves liberated, but who have no devotion, is impure. Even though they rise to the highest point of liberation by dint of severe austerities, severe penances and austerities, they are sure to fall down again into material existence, for they do not take shelter in your lotus feet. The impersonalists cannot reach the Vaikuntha planets to become associates of the Lord, and Therefore, according to their desires, Krishna gives them Sayuja Mukti. However, since Sayuja Mukti is partial Mukti, they must fall again to this material world. When it is said that the individual soul falls from Brahmaloka, this applies to the impersonalist. From authoritative sources, it is learned that Jaya and Vijaya were sent to this material world to fulfill the Lord's desire to fight. The Lord also sometimes wants to fight, but who can fight with the Lord but a very confidential devotee of the Lord? Jaya and Vijaya descended to this world to fulfill the Lord's desire. Therefore, in each of their three births, first is Hiranyakashipu and Hiranyaksha, second is Ravana and Kumbhakarna, and third is Shishupal and Dantavakra. The Lord personally killed them. In other words, these associates of the Lord, Jaya and Vijaya, descended to the material world to serve the Lord by fulfilling his desire to fight. Otherwise, as Maharaj Yudhishthira says, Ashradheya Yavabhati, the statement that the servant of the Lord could fall from Vaikuntha seems unbelievable. How Jaya and Vijaya came to this material world is explained by Narada Muni as follows. Om Yamata Varandasya, Jnanamasa Chaksha, Om Nitam Nidatasma Shri Namaha, Okam Paroti Vachavan Pandu Mangayate Garim Yakipatamaham Vande, Shiguran Dinatarana, Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasaya Bhutale, Shrimati Bhakti Vinata Swami Tinamane, Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Krishnamane, Nirvishesha Shanyavari Bhaskachyade Sitarane, Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaura Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Rama Rama. This verse and yesterday's verse are very much connected, so I wanted to read yesterday's also. Yesterday's verse was inquiry from Maharaj Yudhishthira, same as today's verse. He's asking what kind of great curse could affect even liberated Vishnu Bhaktis, and what sort of person could curse even the Lord's associates. For unflinching devotees of the Lord to fall again to this material world is impossible. I cannot believe this. In today's verse, the bodies of the inhabitants of Vaikuntha are completely spiritual, having nothing to do with the material body, senses, or life air. Therefore, kindly explain how associates of the personality of Godhead were cursed to descend in material bodies like ordinary persons. I think for those who were here yesterday, you know discussion that we began in answer to these questions posed by Yudhishthira Maharaj to Narada Muni. By citing evidence from Rupa Goswami's Laghu Bhagavatamrita, in which, as we explained yesterday, Rupa Goswami, his purpose for writing Laghu Bhagavatamrita was to establish the super excellence of Krishna. How is it that Krishna is the most worshipable, and what are the super excellent qualities that make him the most worshipable? And as we said also, the evidence that he was giving from Shastra were also in accordance with the Paribhasa Sutra of the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is Ete Chamsa Kalapumsa Krishnastu Bhagavan Swayam Indrani Vakalamikam Vidyanti Viyoge. This Paribhasa Sutra. The Paribhasa Sutra is the essential verse upon which everything else in the whole Shastra is based on. Paribhasa Sutra is actually, the way it's explained is, if you find something in a Shastra and you have to find some place to go to reconcile it, you go to the Paribhasa Sutra. And Paribhasa Sutra, Srimad Bhagavatam, is Krishna is the original cause of all causes. He is the source of everything. All other incarnations are originally emanating from him. That is, so if you read anything in Srimad Bhagavatam, it seems to make you think that there's something else. As we said, Rupa Goswami, one of the reasons why he compiled Laghu Bhagavatamrita is because it was at a time where people were under particular misconception that Krishna was an incarnation of other anksas of the Lord. And Krishna, he was simply an incarnation, or an angsa, an expansion. One of the misconceptions, which is prevalent even today, is that many people think that Lord Vishnu is supreme and Krishna is his incarnation. But actually, no, as we understand, and if we, as Gaudiya Vaishnavas, we accept the Srimad Bhagavatam, the conclusions of Srimad Bhagavatam, and therefore we understand that any other incarnation, and Prabhupada gives the example, just as one candle lights many other candles, and many other candles may have the same candle power, but there's always the original candle that has lit the other candles. Now, how is this connected to this point that we're discussing today about the fall of Jai and Vijay? And that, of course, we partially explained yesterday, and as we said, we wanted to cite the evidence given by Rupa Goswami. And please try to understand, when we cite this evidence, as we began citing yesterday, that Rupa Goswami explains in his thesis that he says that I'm not giving you this explanation based on logic. I'm giving you this explanation based on statements of Shastra. For those who are accustomed to logic and argument, we accept Shastra as our foundation too. And therefore, Rupa Goswami specifically explains that his treatise of Laghu Bhagavatamrita was to cite Shastra to support this understanding that Krishna is most worshipful. And why is he most worshipful? Because the things that he does actually establish his most worshipful features, his most worshipful form. And one of the points that Rupa Goswami is bringing out is that Krishna's deliverance of Shishupal showed how Krishna is the most worshipful, and it shows his super excellent qualities. You're very tired. Maybe if you're very tired, and you're not even hearing that I'm saying you're very tired, you might want to sit, listen to things else. Sometimes philosophy has a tendency of doing these things. I'm trying to explain it in a way that's understandable. And as we explained yesterday also, and I should summarize these points also. Again, I won't go into all the details here. They'd be subject to questioning, but I'm just speaking the Shastra. And the Shastra that Rupa Goswami cites, he states that there are different incarnations of the Lord. There's the Avesha incarnations, who are empowered living entities who have been empowered to manifest certain qualities of the Lord, partially, but we know that Bhagavan is one who manifests 6 qualities in full. And one who manifests 6 qualities in full is what Rupa Goswami described as the Para Avastha. Para Avastha. And Para Avastha, as we explained yesterday, there's 3 Para Avastha, who are Lord Nrsimhadev, Lord Ramachandra, and Krishna. Besides them, there's the Avesh incarnations who manifest only certain qualities to fulfill a particular purpose, and they are empowered. Then there is the Prabhava and Vaibhava Avastha. And we explained yesterday that the Prabhava Avastha incarnations they are incarnations who manifest only to fulfill a certain purpose and who do not become so renowned afterwards. They're not so popular as the Vaibhava, Pravasta, and the examples he gave is of Mohini Murti. This is Krishna who manifested for a certain purpose in a particular form. I think Shukla was another one, Harsha. I can't remember the different incarnations, but they are Prabhava Avasta. The Vaibhava Pravasta, they are more empowered, and they generally are more renowned, and they generally live and stay and remain for a longer time. And those examples of the Vaibhava Avasta incarnations were like Vyasadeva, Kapila Muni, Dhanvantari, and generally they are also recognized as scholars. They applied Dhanvantari, Kapila, Vyasadeva, there's others.
Prithu. Prithu.
No, Prithu is Avesh.
Okay.
Prithu Maharaj is Avesh. No, Parashuram is also Avesh. He's not, he's also Avesh at the time. Parashuram. But Vyasadeva is described as a Vaibhava Avasta. And then they have also, he also explains, giving the evidence in Shastra, that they generally have places where they stay for, and they have residences where they actually remain, like Vyasadeva has his residence in Bhadrik Ashram, where they stay, and they have others have these residences also where they stay, and they have their abodes. As opposed to the Prabhava Avasta, that they only come and fulfill a purpose, and they don't stay around so long after their purposes are fulfilled.
Was Rishabdev?
Rishabdev, yes, is one. Yes, Rishabdev is one. Then beyond them is the Para-avastas. And that's what we spoke about yesterday. The Para-avastas are three: Lord Nrsingadev, Lord Ramachandra, and Krishna. And of course we know Krishna, and the point that Rupa Goswami was to establish is the super excellence of Krishna. Why is it? What are the special features that make Krishna so super excellent? What makes him most worshipable? And that is that what Krishna does, I think the verse or the reference that we gave was in Baladeva Vijayabhushan's commentary, is that he invokes, his himself upon those who meditate on him, whether favorably or unfavorably. And of course, this was the most important point about how Shishupal, and previous to Shishupal was Jai. And this is how we're going to get into today's verse. And this Pyari, I'm sure you'll be interested in this because
It's about demons.
No, I know you like to pick up argument points. And that's why I spent so much time saying that Baladeva Vijayabhushan and Rupa Goswami, both in their commentaries, they said that we're not getting into argument to logic and in our establishing of our theses, but we're simply establishing it not on logic or argument, we're establishing it on Shastra. And Shastra is, of course, our foundation for accepting. And therefore, Rupa Goswami very, very clearly establishes on the basis of Shastra what happened to Jai and Vijay. Jai, as we spoke of yesterday, and as Narada Muni is going on to explain in his explanation to Yudhishthira Maharaj, Jai and Vijay, they were gatekeepers in Vaikuntha. The four Kumaras who go into Vaikuntha, the four Kumaras, actually they are also Vaishnavatas. They are not included in the list of Prithu and And they're self-realized souls, and they were going to Vaikuntha, and the gatekeepers saw them as 4 little boys, and it didn't give them enough credibility because of their appearance. Didn't realize they're very auspicious, they're very advanced state of being, and stopped them and said, "Who goes there?" And they say, "We're the Kumaras, and we are going to Vaikuntha, going to see the Lord." And 4 Kumaras were incensed that, how is it you're stopping us, preventing us from going to Vaikuntha? And as we explained yesterday, which is also described in the 3rd canto, that the Lord, when he heard of this exchange going on between the 4 Kumaras and Jai and Vijay, he was very concerned, because they felt, that the 4 Kumaras felt that they wanted to punish the gatekeepers, Jai and Vijay, for obstructing them from going to Vaikuntha. And when the Lord understood this, who was normally in his palace, and when he heard this event had taken place, the Lord personally came himself. He didn't, just imagine, who the personalities the 4 Kumaras are, and who Jai and Vijay are, that, the Lord, considering their auspicious position, but what about the position of the Lord in his palace, Vaikuntha? And he's hearing about this little discussion taking place, so he personally goes himself and says, please, and speaks to the 4 Kumaras, please forgive me for the behavior of my 2 gatekeepers, Jai and Vijay, that they obviously did not know what they were doing. And the reason why he explained that he was so concerned about it is because I was so concerned is because generally if persons who declare themselves to be my servant, and who are my servant, then arrive made by a servant, leads people in general to blame the master, just as a spot of white leprosy on any part of the body spoils all of the skin. So the Lord was personally saying, forgive me, I'm responsible because they're my servants and they've mistreated you. And so I think he even gave one of the next verse, he said, I will personally lop off my armor for my devotees. I can't remember the exact verse, but he was specifically establishing, how dear his devotees are to him. And then, so here are Jai and Vijay. The 4 Kumaras want to curse them, and as we know, the curse was there that they were given a choice to take 7 births as devotees or 3 births as demons. Jai and Vijay, by their desire, they chose to take 3 births as demons because they didn't want to stay away from their relationship with the Lord and their service to the Lord. They thought better 3 births than 7. And therefore, it appeared from this event, and the Lord even said, yes, this is all happening by my arrangement. I give my blessings to it, let it happen. And then Jai and Vijay, gone. They descend. So, in each of their births, Rupa Goswami, specifically, for some reason, he speaks more about Jai than Vijay, because he speaks about how Jai took his birth as Hiranyakashipu, and then he took after taking his birth and being killed by Lord Nrsingadev, then he took his birth as Ravana, and then when he was killed by Lord Ramachandra, then he took his birth as the king of Chedi, Shishupal, and then after he took his birth as Shishupal, he was killed by Krishna. So here he's going to go on to explain why Krishna is superior than Ramachandra and Nrsingadev. And we started that point yesterday. although they are all para avasta, incarnations of the Lord. But there's something that makes Krishna most worshipful and super excellent. And that is that when Krishna kills somebody who's absorbed in thoughts of him, normally when a demon is killed by the Lord, and what happened was like when Hiranyakashipu was killed by the Lord, he was killed by Lord Nrsimhadev, but he didn't get liberation. And I know this is where an argument is going to come up, but there's an explanation. And I'm waiting for Pierre to ask the question. Of course he didn't get liberation, because he had to take 3 births. So, and then when Ravana was killed, he didn't get liberation. Then he took birth as the king of Chaitya, Shishupal. And then after the 3rd birth, Shishupal, when Shishupal was killed, he got liberation. In fact, although it's described that we talked about yesterday, he got Sayuja Mukti, and we hear in the Srimad Bhagavatam how the spiritual spark immediately came out from the body of Shishupal and entered into Krishna's body. But Rupa Goswami explains, and Baladeva Vijayabhushan in his commentary explains, that Sayuja Mukti doesn't always necessarily mean merging, but he explains that actually Sayuja Mukti means Sahayoga, and in the case of Shishupal, it means coming closer to Krishna. And Shishupal actually didn't merge, he entered into a personal relationship of service. He had to, because he was Jai. and he wasn't going to go to the Brahmajyoti, he wasn't going to merge in the body, he was going to go back in his relationship and service to the Lord of Vaikuntha. So Shishupal entered into a personal relationship with the Lord. So again, of course, the argument would be then, yes, of course, that why Hiranyakashipu and then Ravana, it's obvious they wouldn't get liberation and go back to Godhead because they had to take 3 births. But actually, there's another explanation that helps us to understand, and we're going to read this, and I alluded to it yesterday. I'll allude to it now, but rather than getting into questions about it, I think it's important that you let me read it, because Rupa Goswami and Baladeva Vijayabhushan very clearly explained it, that Jai and Vijay falling from Vaikuntha was a one-time affair. And it was, it happened in this particular kalpa. And Rupa Goswami and Baladeva Vijayabhushan both explain that their descent of Jai and Vijay to take birth as these particular demons was this in this kalpa, but the Lord, he appears in every kalpa, in every day of Brahma, and he kills his demons. So how is it possible then that if Jai and Vijay, they go back to the spiritual world, and then they have to come back again in another kalpa? No, it's a one-time thing. In other kalpas, demons get killed. They're not Jai and Vijay.
Putana.
Huh?
Like Putana?
Well, yeah, but the Lord, the point is when the Nrsimhadev appears in every kalpa and kills Hiranyakashipu. Hiranyakashipu is Hiranyakashipu. But in this particular kalpa, it's Jai and Vijay who descended. But when they go back, they don't come back again. Why would they come back again? They go back. And this is the whole point. It's very difficult to understand when somebody goes back, why would they come back again? Unless they want to. And it just so happens that Jai and Vijay, they wanted to. They wanted to. And Baladeva Vijayabhushan explains why did they want to, and we'll read this. We didn't get to it yesterday. I'm just giving you a little entrance into the points that are established by
So they come back more than...
No, they don't.
They don't.
They wanted to this time.
Okay.
And they explained the reason why they wanted to, because in Vaikuntha, they hear the bards. They heard the bards glorifying the Lord. And the bards, you know, in the palace of the Lord, they speak about what the Lord does in his pastimes. And they were speaking about one of the things that the bards speak about is how the Lord likes to fight demons. But there's no fighting in demons in the spiritual world. But he likes to fight demons. And Jaya Vijay heard the bards discussing this, and they're thinking, oh, maybe we can serve the Lord like this. So by hearing the bards and hearing the glorification of the Lord, they were thinking, yes, this is a good way to serve the Lord. Why don't we become demons? It's a good fight. And the Lord likes a good fight. So therefore, they came, and this kalpa, in this particular kalpa, they came and they appeared as Hiranyakashipu and Hiranyaksha, and as Ravana and Kumbhakarna, and then as Dantavakra and Shishupal. And then Shishupal, he got some special mercy. And as we spoke yesterday, we were quoting the verse yesterday that you have verse 31, Gopya Kama Mayat Kamso, where it says that, my dear King Yudhishthira, the gopis by their lusty desires, Kamsa by his fear. By the way, Kamsa, I said yesterday when the question was asked, it did say that, yeah, Kamsa did get into a personal relationship. And I looked it up, I was curious as to which mukti he got. He got Sarupya mukti. Yes, Sarupya mukti. He got the same features of the Lord. And it was because we were reading this verse, we were explaining that they got all the, well, the verse says, my dear King Yudhishthira, the gopis by their lusty desires, Kamsa by his fear, Shishupal and other kings by envy, the Yadus by their familiar relationship with Krishna, you Pandavas by your great affection for Krishna, and we the general devotees by our devotional service have obtained the mercy of Krishna. Yeah. So mercy means, getting personal relationship with the Lord. This is mercy. So therefore, Shishupal got the mercy of Krishna. Shishupal entered back into his relationship with the Lord, his service to the Lord. So now, we've really covered the point about Jaya and Vijay, that it was just all the arrangement of the Lord. And Prabhupada even says it in the 5th canto commentary, we understand it's falling from Vaikuntha, that sometimes the Lord, he said, actually in one purport he says there are different types of obstacles of devotional service. One type of obstacles is the will of the Lord. That's his commentary in the 5th canto. He says, it's the will of the Lord. When the will of the Lord imposes an obstacle to devotee, and he gave the example of Jaya and Vijay. It was his will that Jaya and Vijay fall. And that was the explanation given in the purport in 5th canto, the Prabhupada. So, we wanted to read, I've kind of really covered a lot of the points, but I think in order to really more fully relish, because as we explained yesterday, that what is it that makes Krishna the most relishable is that what Krishna does enables us to become very much absorbed in thoughts of him. And it was because of the absorption in thoughts of Krishna that Shishupal got liberation and entered into his personal relationship with Krishna, because he was absorbed in thoughts even out of envy. Kamsa out of fear, Shishupal out of envy, but he was completely absorbed in thoughts of Krishna. And the point that Rupa Goswami brings out is that in the particular examples of Hiranyakashipu and Ravana, they were not absorbed in thoughts of the Lord in the same way as Shishupal was. And we only read a couple of the verses yesterday from the Love Bhagavatamrita, and I wanted to simply continue to begin reading from where we left off, because this really establishes another point, which is all connected to this pastime, which is the super excellent qualities of Krishna, and why Krishna is most worshipable. And as I also said yesterday, I'm going to read, and because everybody understands. And it doesn't have to be translated. Everything I read yesterday, I believe, no, I'll just review a couple of points from yesterday. This is Rupa Goswami quoting Vishnu Purana. Maitreya asked this question. After Vishnu killed Hiranyakashipu and later Ravana, the jiva who had taken birth as those demons achieved facilities for material enjoyment even the demigods cannot attain. Why, in those circumstances, did he not achieve the liberation of merging into the eternal Lord Hari, as he did after he took birth as Shishupal, who was killed by the Lord? That was the question Maitreya asked Parashara. You read the purport yesterday. The next verse states, Sri Parashara answered, to kill the king of the demons, he who is the creator, maintainer, and destroyer of all the worlds, revealed his unparalleled form of Nishinga. At that time, Hiranyakashipu did not realize that Nishinga was Vishnu. Thinking that this powerful being had accumulated heaps of extremely pious credits, Hiranyakashipu focused his attention on him under the strong impulsion of the mode of passion. In other words, what was Hiranyakashipu thinking? Who is this? Who's basically is who's this guy? He's not thinking, oh, this is the Lord Nishingadev, half man, half lion. None of that. But as we said yesterday, not only when Lord Nishingadev manifests his uber form, his very fearsome form, we don't really think of it as, sweet, something relishable and sweet to meditate upon. His very fearful form. So Hiranyakashipu, in fact, Hiranyakashipu, he didn't even think, he thought he was going to defeat whoever this guy was, who was very powerful. He thought, I've got a benediction, I'm not going to die. But he thought who's this half man, half lion, great person? He wasn't thinking, this is the Lord. That's the point. He wasn't thinking, this is the Lord coming to end my life. He's just thinking, okay, looks like a good fight. So therefore, Rupa Goswami quoting Parashara, when he says that Hiranyakashipu did not realize Nishinga was Vishnu.
Was he afraid?
I don't know if he was afraid.
He was puffed up because he thought he was immortal.
Yeah, he wasn't like Kamsa, who was always afraid. Kamsa was always meditating, because he's always thinking, it could be him, it could be this, it could be that. He was seeing holes in his shadow, he was seeing everything, seeing so many inauspicious signs. Everywhere he looked, he thought, he was absorbed. When is he gonna? Hiranyakashipu wasn't like that. That time Hiranyakashipu did not realize that Nishinga was Vishnu. Thinking that this powerful being had accumulated, he was thinking he was a powerful being accumulating heaps of pious activities. That's what we thought Nishingadev was. Hiranyakashipu focused his attention on him under the strong impulsion of the mode of passion. By concentrating his mind on the Lord in this way, while the Lord killed him in his next life as 10-headed Ravana, Hiranyakashipu was only given facilities for material enjoyment that are unequaled in the three worlds. So in other words, he didn't get liberation. In his next life, he got birth as Ravana. Okay, and we read about that yesterday in the purport. If Lord Nrsimha is none other than Krishna himself, why was Hiranyakashipu not liberated? When killed by him, Parashara Muni will explain that when Lord Krishna kills a demon, he insinuates himself into the heart of that particular soul by the charm of his personality, names, and other attractive qualities. Lord Nrsimha, however, does not generally exert this liberating, all-attracting influence in the fallen jivas who encounter him. Right? So that's one of the super excellent features of Krishna. And he's going to even get a little bit more onto this point. Then what was Hiranyakashipu's awareness regarding the Lord in his form of Nrsimha? He saw him as a powerful living being like himself, endowed with extraordinary qualities. Why? Because the strong influence of the mode of passion always distorts our understanding. Nevertheless, in spite of his bewildered condition, by intensely focusing his attention on this amazing man-lion who would kill him with his own hands, Hiranyakashipu gained in his next life wealth and power beyond the reach of the demigods. In the next text, because of Hiranyakashipu's bewilderment, his mind did not actually take shelter of and unite with the personality of Godhead, the Supreme Absolute Truth, without beginning or end. And then, purport, short purport, before one's mind can fully enter the transcendental shelter, one must become convinced that he is the Absolute Truth. The transcendental shelter is the Absolute Truth. Or the mind may enter a similar state if one becomes extremely hateful toward him. Text 45. Then in his next life, as Ravana, under the sway of Cupid, he became obsessed with Janaki. Thus, although he saw the Lord in his form as the son of Dasaratha, he failed to become spiritually attracted to him or to realize he was the infallible Lord. Instead, he conceived of him as an ordinary human, and again he obtained diminished results from dying at Lord Achyuta's hands. He next took birth as Shishupal in the glorious world-renowned family of the kings of Chedi and enjoyed unimpeded power. So here, in the commentary, this explains, why was this demoniac individual not given liberation when he was killed the second time by the Lord as Ram, who was also Krishna himself? Because again, the specific relationship with the Lord that results in liberation did not become manifest. 10-headed Ravana was enchanted by the divine goddess of fortune, but unfortunately he could see her only as an extremely attractive woman without knowing that she was the wife of the Supreme Lord. Ravana has the rare opportunity to see Lord Krishna in his form as Sri Dasarati, but thinking the Lord's birth in a royal family a result of good karma, he again considered him a finite creature. In other words, again, Ravana didn't think this is the Lord. He was thinking, oh, he took birth. Like, that was one of the features of Ramachandra. He appeared to be like a god-man, a godlike man, right? And he thought, with a beautiful wife. Ravana thought, a godlike man with a beautiful wife, and I'm attracted to him. So, and because he was thinking of him this way, even though he was killed by Ramachandra, because he wasn't absorbed in the Lord, as the Lord, then he had to take birth. He took birth in a royal family, result of good karma. Ravana failed to recognize infallible Vishnu, the greatest of lords, personally endowed with all eternal excellences. Therefore, he could not develop sufficient attraction to qualify for liberation. When Ravana's wife scolded him for insisting on opposing Lord Ram, Ravana disclosed that he theoretically understood the Lord's glories. This superficial knowledge, however, could not gain him liberation, absent the ingredients of intense attraction. Because of Ravana's stubborn defiance, Lord Ramachandra did not manifest his power of attraction to change his heart. Therefore, when Ravana died from the arrow shot by Lord Ram, he again only attained great material opulence in his next life. from being killed personally by the Supreme Lord, Ravana took his next birth in the most powerful royal family of the Chedis. The reward for seeing the personality of Godhead even with clouded vision, while dying at his hands, is wealth and power greater than that of the demigods in heaven, as is confirmed in the Vedanta Sutras. Liberation does not come from seeing the Supreme with ordinary vision, just as does not come simply from dying. The result of seeing the Supreme with ordinary vision is elevation to higher worlds. This sutra sheds light on why some unenlightened persons can see the Supreme Lord when he incarnates, and why many who see him do not get liberation. Paraphrasing the sutra, the Narayana Tantra states, Samanya darshana loka muktir yogyatma darshana. By seeing the Supreme with ordinary vision, one attains higher planets, but by seeing him in the proper way, one attains liberation. So, this is more evidence. Ravana saw with ordinary vision, didn't see Ramachandra as he was, therefore he didn't get liberation. And now, the Shishupal. The Shishupal he found cause to chant all the Supreme Lord's names. Shishupal was always speaking about Krishna in enmity. Shishupal had caused to chant all the Supreme Lord's names with his mind absorbed incessantly in the Lord after several lifetimes of hatred. He uttered all his names to criticize, scold, and otherwise abuse him. Whether Shishupal was walking, eating, bathing, sitting, sleeping, or doing anything else, his deep-seated envy caused his heart and mind to be inescapably absorbed in the image of the Lord's form. He saw that the Lord had eyes as perfectly brilliant, beautiful as fully blossomed lotus petals, and that he wore a brilliantly effulgent yellow garment, that a spotlessly beautiful helmet decorated his head, and that ornaments graced his four glorious stout arms with which he held a conch disc club in lotus. Commentary? This is how he was thinking. He also chanting, and he's going to say here, he's always chanting names of him and thinking of him as the Lord. He's just envious of him.
So he wanted to be beautiful too, right? Because he saw...
He wanted...
Did he also want to have that?
No, it wasn't that. He was just appreciating that this beautiful person, he's beautiful, but I was envious of him. I'm envious of his beauty, I'm envious of his power, I'm envious. So in the commentary, when he appears, Sri Krishna's Swayam Rupa constantly manifests the specific potency of enchantment that leads to liberation. Thus Shishupal fully absorbed his mind in Krishna. And when Krishna killed him with his Sudarshan disc, he finally obtained liberation. Krishna's enchantment potency becomes manifest primarily in two ways: through the charm of his names and the beauty of his transcendental body. Shishupal chanted Krishna's names many times as describing him as Daityari, the killing of his enemies; Pundarikaksha, the lotus-eyed detractor; as Shambhi, the wielder of the bow Shanga; as Garuda Vahan, the master of his carrier Garuda; and as Vasudeva, the son of Vasudeva. These are all words glorifying. In fact, some places it was said, sometimes demons, they use words to describe Krishna in a hateful way, but they're names of Krishna, they're glorifying him. So Shishupal spoke all of these names. He was absorbed in these different names of the Lord, and he was absorbed in the form of the Lord. Couldn't get his mind off in envy. So his mind was fixed in the hatred he had harbored for 3 lifetimes, and thus Krishna's names flowed continuously through his heart and often from his tongue with condemnation and scorn. Thus he became totally absorbed in this meditation. Attracted by the charm of Krishna's names and bodily form, Shishupal could not remove the image of his beauty from his mind for a moment. Next verse. This is also Rupa Goswami citing Parashara Muni. Thus the Shishupal called out Krishna's names in anger and fixed his attention upon him. From the halo of rays emanating from the disk the Lord hurled to kill him, Shishupal could finally see that the personality of Godhead and the infallible brilliance of his personal form were the supreme absolute truth. This sight rid Shishupal of the contamination of his enmity toward the Lord. At that moment, the Supreme Lord's disk quickly dispatched him, and all his accumulated sins were burnt away by his remembering the Lord. The Lord finished Shishupal's material existence, and Shishupal merged into the Lord. Purport. All of Shishupal's sins were burnt away by his chanting of Krishna's names and his meditating intensely on Krishna's form, even in hatred. Shishupal obtained prema and realized Krishna's actual position by virtue of the auspicious influence of Krishna's Sudarshan chakra rushing toward him. In that moment, Shishupal acquired all the assets of spiritual practice, and so Krishna personally brought him close to his transcendental body. The liberation Shishupal attained was not impersonal merging, but connection with the Lord in personal service. The word laya means not only dissolution. Merging with the Lord is considered to be a kind of dissolution, but also closeness, according to the Hamsa Kosha dictionary. Next verse. Now I have explained the whole situation to you. Certainly he is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Upon those who describe and remember him, even in a mood of hatred, he bestows a fruit rarely obtained by demigods, asuras, and other superhuman beings. What to speak then of his reciprocation with those who have true devotion for him? Purport. Thus, although the three para-avasta forms of the Supreme Lord are essentially equal, only the Swayam Rupa Krishna always manifests the specific potency required for liberation. Demons killed by Lord Nrsimha and Lord Ramachandra do not generally obtain liberation. Therefore, Sri Krishna, more than any other form of God, is Bhagavan. He alone intrinsically possesses all perfections, bhagas, completely fulfilling the significance of the suffix van. Krishnas tu Bhagavan Svayam. He is the ultimate reservoir of everything. He rewards even demons with liberation, but the liberated state attained by those devotees who love him purely is infinitely greater, where he becomes their sold-out servant. In this passage, the sage Parasara recommends devotion to the Supreme Lord rather than hatred for him. Hatred is an undesirable emotion that demons express towards the Lord. As we said, it's uncool, not so favorable. Padma Purana states, Yogi vir drishyate bhaktya, na bhaktya drishyate kvachit, drashtum na shakyo roshascha, vatsarascha jihana. Yogis are able to see Lord Janardana with devotion, but never without devotion. One cannot see him when anger or envy remains. Shishupal attained liberation only because he absorbed his mind fully in Krishna consciousness. Devarshi Narada recommends tasmat kinapyu apayena mana Krishna naveshaya. Therefore, by whatever means possible, one should absorb his mind in Krishna. Next verse. In this passage from the Vishnu Purana, Parashara Rishi does not mention the two associates of Vishnu who each took 3 births as demons. Therefore, we cannot consider these demons who appear every day of Brahma incarnations of Vishnu's 2 associates who would not realistically fall down every kalpa. And this, I'll read it. This is the last purport. This is a lot more, because of the verses which will follow was simply a summary of what he's given so far. But this is now is explained at this point about Jai and Vijay. When they go back, it's not they come back again and again. They go back. If one goes back, he doesn't come again. So therefore the verse states, therefore we cannot consider these demons who appear every day of Brahma, incarnations of Vishnu's two associates, who would not realistically fall down every kalpa. Purport. Someone may object, how does this discourse between Parasha and Maitreya show that Krishna is the original Godhead? We know from the third canto of Srimad Bhagavatam about the fall of Jaya and Vijay from Vaikuntha due to the curse of the four Kumaras. We also know about their release from the curse and their return to the service in Vaikuntha when Krishna killed them in their third incarnations. Their liberation after 3 births as demons was the realization of the terms of their curse. Where is the evidence of Krishna's unique power to liberate? This objection is countered by verses 50 and 51, which are the verses we just read. Parasha deliberately did not mention the 2 fallen associates of Vaikuntha because he understood they could not fall from Vaikuntha every day of Brahma. That would contradict the promises that Lord Hari is always kind to his devotees, and that one who attains Vaikuntha never returns to the world. The Lord fights with demons in each kalpa, but not necessarily with Vaikuntha associates. The fall of Jaya and Vijay from Vaikuntha, related in the third canto, is a special, rare event caused by the Lord's own desire. The Lord of Vaikuntha expresses this desire in the third canto, it's 3:16-29, as follows: Bhagavan anugavaha yatam na bhaishtam astusam brahmateja samartopi antam neche matam tume. The Lord then said to his attendants, Jaya and Vijay, "Depart this place, but fear not, all glories unto you, though I am unable to nullify the Brahman's curse. I will not do so. On the contrary, it has my approval." Commentaries on this verse explain that Jaya and Vijay fell by their own desire. When they had heard bards in Lord Narayan's court singing about their master's prowess in fighting with demons, they wanted to see how he enjoyed this combat. And the Lord responded to the desires of his devotees. Krishna is thus glorified with the phrases, Sveshcha Mayasya, you appear according to the desires of your dear devotees. And Bhaktechcho Pata Deha, Dehaya, you assume your various forms to fulfill your desires, your devotees' desires. Someone may then object, don't these glorifications contradict the declaration that no one returns from Vaikuntha? Certainly no one ever returns from Vaikuntha impelled by karma. But someone can return if he wants to. If it were considered improper to come down from Vaikuntha by one's own desire, then Lord Hari himself would be guilty of that impropriety. On the other hand, we also learn from the Bhagavatam that one does not even have to return from the region of Vaikuntha, present within Satyaloka, in the material world. He quotes a verse that states that Lord Shiva, when he reached the luminous realm of Vaikuntha, beyond all darkness where the Supreme Lord Narayana resides, that realm is the destination of renunciants who have attained peace and given up all violence against other creatures. Going there, one never returns. There's more verses, but the verses are just a summary. We discussed this simply to answer in what I felt was in a very complete way about the fall of Jaya and Vijay and why they fell. It was the will of the Lord, and upon returning, upon being killed, as Shishupal and Panchapakra, and going to the eternal relationship with the Lord, they did not have to take birth again, and devotees from Vaikuntha could only would come again if they had a desire to come again, but not by karma. Thus, by substantiating evidence, when one goes there, he never comes back. Krishna states about Gita. That is my supreme goal. I'm going to end here. There's a lot of things that have to come up this morning. I'm not going to take any questions. And And I've got to fly out today. I'm supposed to take part in the events of all around us chant. So forgive me for stopping here, and I'm expected to participate, as far as I understand, in a minimal way. And I would like to be able to finish my rounds before flight, with your permission.
Thank you for speaking.
Huh?
Thank you for speaking.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.